Good morning to Becky, Tooley, and to Jeffrey Wasserman in candidates for Seat A, Coconut Creek. I'm Steve Bosquet, the opinion editor at the Sun Sentinel. My deputy opinion editor, Dan Sweeney, is also here with us. We appreciate you both filling out the questionnaire. We like to think of this as the start of a conversation. Please understand that this interview this morning will figure prominently in our decision as to who to endorse in this race, but it is by no means, the entire story. We have your questionnaires. We're talking to people in the community. You both saw me at a recent meeting of the Winmore Democratic Club. I was there. So got a very interesting community. I'm going to start with the incumbent, with Rebecca Tooley, and ask you, Becky, you've got a long, deep roots in your community. I want to ask you what you hope to accomplish in your next term that you haven't had a chance to accomplish yet.
Well, actually, we're in the process of building a downtown area. This has been going on for 18 years, and I want to make sure that it's smart building and green buildings. We've been doing this, and we need to build a new fire station and police station, and my idea was to put it together. It's been done in other towns, in Sanford and other places over Florida, and this will save the taxpayers a little bit of money.
Okay. Tell me more about this police and fire station complex. Is this anticipate a bond issue, or is it going to be built with existing revenues, or what?
We're hoping to do it with grants funding, and we've been pretty successful with that. And there's also some funding, national funding and state funding. So we're hoping that we get some of that.
What are you most proud of as a commissioner in Coconut Creek?
Most proud of is the growth rate. We've kept it down. We still have the most undeveloped land. I believe that we have some of the best department heads in the county. I, along with Yvonne Lopez, went to a conference, National League of Cities conference, and we found cities doing the Citizens Academy. So that started about 15 years ago. And it's turned out as really a great program, and people learn how the city runs. And I'm proud of that. And also our parks.
Okay. You're a 38, I think you said in your question, you're a 38-year resident of Coconut Creek. So that takes you back to maybe the mid 80s, right?
Yes.
You moved here from Ohio?
Yes. I said I'd never live in Florida, and I met a wonderful guy who was an ex-New York policeman, and that's why I'm here. And he was a pillar in the community. He helped build the first community center.
Tell us a little bit, and tell viewers who watch this a little bit about, because I was there at the time myself, but tell me the Coconut Creek you remember from 1985. What did it look like compared to the city of today?
Well, actually, it wasn't built, of course, like it is now. But I believe that through smart development that we have done a very good job. There are a few areas, the Coconut Creek Shopping Center, Lions Road Plaza, that need some help. We are working on the Hillsborough Plaza, and I remember that not even being there. On Lions Road, there were strawberry patches. But we do a good job in controlling the building.
Okay, let me turn to Jeffrey Wasserman, because Jeffrey, she touched on the Lions Road Publix Plaza. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to ask you off the bat, you're challenging a well-known incumbent. What do you offer the people of Coconut Creek that's different from they're getting from the incumbent commissioner?
Well, thank you for having me. This is a really neat experience, and I'm glad to be here. But first thing is, over the past 20 years or so, we've seen a huge demographic shift in the city. Our average age is about 41 years old. And people from my generation don't have a seat at the table. And it's important that we get all the generations together to look for the next 25 years of our city. The past 25 years, I think the legacy has been good. But I think as we move forward, it's important to get everybody's input. Not just people who've been there for so long, but for maybe fresh ideas, a new perspective. And I'm trying to lead my generation to get involved. I'm a public servant. I've been a public servant as an educator for the past 12 years. I'm a Broward County born and raised kid, and I want to give back, and I'm ready to lead this generation to take Coconut Creek to that next level.
Okay. Yes, you're an educator. You're assistant principal at Cypress Bay High School, right?
Yes, sir.
How does that experience, how does your work as an educator prepare you for something like running for municipal government like this?
Well, I've always looked at a school as like a little tiny town, right? You have the facilities people, you have the teachers, you have the students who are your citizens, you have your teachers who are your workers, your facilities people, your cafeteria. I'm at the table with my principal and my other APs every day working to improve our school. We deal with the budget, we deal with hiring, we deal with working with this local city. So that's one thing that I work with. I work on a committee of people that do their best to advance our school. We are the largest high school in the state, and we are also in the top 5% in the country. So I think working with them and being able to problem solve and also problem find. I think problem finding is really important. Some things fly under the radar. And one thing I've been able to do since going to Cypress Bay, and even when I worked at Stoneman Douglas, was finding problems and finding issues that maybe people didn't see that we can do to improve and better the citizens of the school.
Okay. Jeffrey didn't use these exact words, Becky, but I will. I'll be a little bit less polite. I mean, what I heard him say was demographically, city government is too old, or it's much older than the demographics of the community. And so to a certain extent, it's not representative. What do you say to that?
Well, actually, Jeffrey wasn't there. I don't know why, if he was interested in running, but we have had 3 vision programs that were made up from the young people to the seniors. And we tried to do everything that they were instrumental in picking the parks and some of the other things that we do now in Coconut Creek that we did before. So we just finished Vision 2030, and there were tons of people there that helped out. We had a lot of meetings. We advertised it on our website and through the Cocogram that goes out to residents every week. So there would have been a chance for him to say that, what he wanted. But we did have young people on that board.
Explain how what comes out of Vision 2030 becomes reality in Coconut Creek. How does that happen?
Well, it comes out with growth. We tackle everything. Our employees, our department heads, our CIPs. We have a recreation program that we did a master plan for. That's the first time ever. And every year a park is picked and redone and spruced up. And so these are some of the things that came out of it.
Jeff, Becky just used the term CIPs. What does that stand for?
Capital improvement projects.
And what does that mean?
It's basically working in the city to improve a lot of our infrastructure and things that the city uses. But I do want to say the Vision 2030, that was in 2020. I did move into Coconut Creek at the beginning of, at the end of 2020. So I wasn't here. I did live in Delray. I am a born and raised Carl Springs kid. Grew up here, Northwest Broward County. So if I was able to go to that, I would have 100% been there. But unfortunately, the vision was already set in place. So I'd like to contribute to that vision moving forward as the commissioner for District A, and let those people not just be represented at a couple meetings, but for an extended period of time, and always have everybody's voice heard in this city.
Okay. Jeff, you mentioned it in your questionnaire, and Becky mentioned it briefly in passing, but tell us what is wrong. What's the problem with this public shopping center at Lyons Road and Coconut Creek Parkway, and what is your solution for fixing what's wrong with it?
So what we've been doing is me and my wife go to that Publix. We go to Johnny Pie's. We go into that plaza all the time. And one day, I kid you not, it was raining, it was flooding. We couldn't figure out how to get from our car into Publix because the entire front of the lot was flooded. It's very dangerous to our citizens of Winmore and also to any citizen going to that Publix and to that shopping plaza. One of the big things is I've been knocking on doors. We're at 26 miles right now. We have made about 422 phone calls. When I say we, it's me. I don't have anybody doing this for me. Every day after school, we're calling. Every weekend, we're walking, because the most important thing is talking to the people. And one of the big things people have told me is that shopping plaza has been forgotten. It is not being maintained. It is not being kept up. And it is dangerous, especially to the people from Winmore who are going. There's also talks of one of the banks closing down. I was thinking, why are there so many banks in this plaza? Well, to accommodate the people in Winmore, because they're all belong to so many different banks.
Okay.
All of a sudden, they're talking about closing one of the banks. I want to work with the developers. I want to work with the city on incentivizing the developer to repair this plaza, because it needs some TLC. It needs some tender love and care.
Okay. Becky, first of all, is Jeffrey right in his description of this flooding and this problem, and why hasn't the city been able to resolve it?
Actually, that shopping center was redone at one time and they moved the Publix, and it actually recently had just been sold, but we have been after them about the drainage, and a lot of people complain. And then I have to go to the city manager. I can't go to the department head according to our charter, and ask that something be done. And I've been doing this for almost 4 years.
Are you generally satisfied with the responsiveness and with the record of your city manager?
Karen is a very caring person, and actually, I will tell you, she was our CFO for a while. So that's important to keep our taxes down, for her to help and whatever. And we did some cutting this year I didn't want to do, but we had to do it.
No, my question was, do you have a high level of confidence in her ability?
Yes.
How about you, Jeff?
Absolutely. I think it's important to, the city manager runs the city, and the commission advises and does their best to work with her or him. And I think it's important that when you have that good bond and that good relationship, everybody can kind of work together, because at the end of the day, that's what this is. We all breathe the same air. We drive the same streets. We want to do what's best for our city. And yes, I am confident in her.
Okay. I've got a lot more questions on a lot of topics, and we definitely want to talk about the landfill and the turnpike, of course, but I want to open the conversation to my colleague, Dan Sweeney. Dan always has great questions. Go ahead, Dan.
Speaking of the landfill and the turnpike extension, I thought it was interesting that, in your questionnaires, we asked both of you, what are the three biggest issues in the city? And you both, for your number one and number two, put landfill expansion and turnpike expansion. And the development of that largest slate of land near the promenade was, I think, number three for Mr. Wasserman, and was also mentioned on your questionnaire, Becky, in a different area. So those seem like, really kind of the big issues the next city commission is going to have to face. Given that Commissioner Tooley is already on the commission and aware of the issues and everything, Mr. Wasserman, recognizing that these are the big issues, what would you do differently, since you both seem to agree on these points?
So the landfill is the third largest in the United States. They now want to expand. They want to encroach on our land. And listen, I've accepted zero money from Waste Management and any subsidiary working with them. I think it's important that we separate that from our city. And we're going to work for the city. It's important. We're not working for a corporation. And I think I'm fresh. I think in learning about the landfill and everything that's happening, with the incinerator being shut down in 2015, and now all of the waste being transferred to the southern incinerator, I have been searching, and I tell you this: I'm online. I'm looking at meeting minutes. I'm looking at agendas. I've yet to find why the incinerator was shut down here in Monarch Hill. I don't understand. It's something that I've yet to comprehend. And one thing I'd like to do is, we still need more government regulation to maintain the water and air quality. We must maintain that. I know Ms. Tooley is on the SWWG board. I've looked at some of what she said at the meetings. I don't know if the representation is right for Coconut Creek at those meetings. But we have people who are scared, because at the end of the day, it's at our doorstep, and other cities are around us. But I really want to work with the group, and I think the waste fee has gone up. Our waste fee has gone up in the city. We look at our tax bill, all of a sudden our waste fee is going up. This is important. We have to be knowledgeable. People are looking to us for help. They want to believe in us. And I think I can do that for us.
Becky, what happened with the incinerator?
Actually, they bought it and they put it on, it's on their land and they have the right to take it down. I don't agree with it because in Coconut Creek, we don't put our garbage on the hill. We burn it and take it, to another place. But we have done, asked them to put heights, and we went through a law course that we prohibited certain items to be put on that hill. We've tried to stop them. We asked, I believe before Christmas, there was LUPA, and we asked that elected officials, we asked residents to please come and plead to the county commission not to let them expand. We also went through the planning council and we did it again. And we asked residents, please come. The smell's horrible. Some of the things that are happening. So please come. Unfortunately, not many residents showed up.
What alternatives would you offer the county in lieu of just expanding this gigantic dump? Well,
actually, I'm on the solid waste committee, and we're kind of going between the county and us. So it's representation from both the small, medium, and large cities, and they have to be all elected officials. And then with the county, and it's bouncing back and forth. And I asked that the TAC committee to meet because there has to be a solution. I don't want to be like New York and put garbage on a barge and float it. So, I think probably the burning there is some trash that's put there like glass, and it may have an experimental thing in May. I would like to see the recycling go up, but unfortunately, Canada bought all the recyclables and they're not doing it anymore. So that's why cities are not recycling. They may tell you they're recycling, but they're burning.
Jeffrey, same question there. I mean, it seems like everybody agrees that you don't want to expand what is derisively referred to as Mount Trashmore.
Yes.
But what alternatives would you offer to the county instead of expanding?
Well, first of all, she mentioned that they bought the land and they bought the incinerator. We have to incentivize to start using the incinerator. I mean, that's thing number one. I don't know why there's one incinerator in the entire county. We're one of the largest counties in the country, and we have garbage. We're so densely populated. So that's one of the things is working there. It's also just regulation. I mean, we need to work with these people, and we need the state government to assist us. We need the local with the Broward County Commission. We have to talk these things through. And when people see eye to eye, when you're able to take profit and greed out of something, which is sometimes very hard to do, I understand, then we can all do it together. And I just think I don't understand 2015, the incinerator, all of a sudden the landfill's growing. I do understand it produces some gas for some homes, but it's just not making sense to me. And I'd like to be a part of the conversation, but a lot of these conversations are closed doors. So who knows really what's going on? And I think I'm a practical minded person. If I get involved and I'm able to have these conversations and be able to problem solve, then maybe, my ideas and learning about the issues can contribute.
To move on to the Turnpike expansion, Jeffrey, what exactly to describe the issue to people who are watching who might not quite be aware? I know that it's the expansion of lanes that'll back practically right up onto Winmore. What exactly are we talking about? How close to Winmore, and what needs to happen what sort of alternatives can you offer transportation?
Sure. So back in 2007, they were going to expand the Turnpike from 6 to 8 lanes. Then the recession happened. They pulled back. And all of a sudden, about 2017, the idea came back with like a vengeance, right? All of a sudden, they go from 6 to 10 lanes. What happened to 8? I have no idea. So they go from 6 to 10. And all of a sudden, you're talking about really backing it into Winmore. People want to retire in Winmore. They don't want to worry about loud noises coming from a turnpike. I remember me and my wife were going to buy a home. We didn't know where we were going to live. And all of a sudden, we realized that there was a turnpike right on it. We said, no, I mean, this is not how we want to live. But if we can mobilize, just like Century Village did over on Hillsborough, if we can mobilize, if we can do what we need to do as people, because the power of the people is important, I think it should never be underestimated. A lot of people get discouraged sometimes because people with greed and money and corporations, they think I have no shot. But no, in the power comes one. And I think it's important that if we work, if let's say we could somehow win, right? And they don't expand, but we're talking all the way from Wiles all the way to 595. There are other cities being involved in this, not just ours. But it's important that we unite against the Department of Transportation. And let's just say, in the worst case, we fail. And the state says, we're going to do what we want. There's nothing you could do about it. We need to work with the Appropriations Committee to ensure that we get the funding necessary for the walls, the soundproof barrier walls that are going to be up along that edge. We're talking within 5 feet of Windmore. People can't have this. But we need to get the money proper to at least alleviate. But I'm not going to settle for that. I want us to go forward as people, especially Windmore, especially South Creek, especially Century Park or Centura Park. We must come together, because if not, we could, once something is there, it's hard to replace it.
Sure. Becky, he said, if we can do this, and it sounded like it was a kind of a big if. Is there anything Coconut Creek can do to
Actually, we've had community meetings that he could have come to and wasn't there. But Windmore is enforcing, and we're getting people in my area because it's 5 feet from the back door of South Creek, but it's a little farther from the Windmore. But it's the tall buildings and the sound's going up in order. So we have been at every meeting that we can find to go. And now I'm meeting one-on-one. I had proposed that we did 8 lanes and have 1 for mass transit, which would cut down a little bit.
Sorry, is that 8 lanes plus 1, so a total of 9, or is that
right? Or take away, because I tried at 8 lanes and one of those lanes had to be, and they didn't like it. So every time I meet them, I stick to my guns, and that's what I want. I want it down to 8 lanes if we have to have it. And that's not the only problem in our area, because of some of the intersections, you have to, if you're going local, it throws you clear around. You have to get up on the turnpike and back off again. So it's very, very complicated. So we've been working hard on this issue. We beat them before. We beat them, twice. I'm hoping we can beat them this time. And every time I see them, when they have a meeting there, I said, 8 lanes, please. So that's what we need people to do. But we need everybody. As Jeffrey said, we need everybody to help. Well, you know what? You need to step in, Jeffrey.
Well, absolutely, Ms. Tooley, I appreciate that. And the good thing about a lot of these meetings, and I give a lot of credit to Sandy Welch, the commissioner, for getting all the meetings streamed online, and they're recorded, especially a lot of our ambassador programs. It's very important that we have that option to people. If somebody back in the day, maybe they couldn't make a meeting, they couldn't be there, but now they have the ability to watch it and be a part of it and take the knowledge that people talked about and apply it to now what I'm trying to do. And the Florida Turnpike, they say it's the less stress way, right, when you drive on it. But if they expand, it's going to cause a lot of stress in our city. And the reason why we beat them in 2007 is because the recession, they backed down. So it wasn't just the city. It wasn't just Miss Tooley's work, because there is a commission of people. It's not just Miss Tooley running the city. It's a group of people. So it's important that we recognize that it's a group effort. It's not just an I. It's a team of people that are representing the city.
Jeffrey, I'm not saying it's just me, because we have one of the best commissions ever, and we work together.
Okay. Dan, if I can jump in.
Sure.
I want to ask, let me start with you, Becky. Tell us and tell the people exactly where bureaucratically, where is this turnpike expansion at the moment, administratively? What's the next step? It's
still in the Turnpike Association, and they're meeting with the elected officials one-on-one. I have a meeting next week. There are going to be plenty more public meetings. So we're hoping that we all can stop it. Each commissioner's meeting with them, and each commissioner has been to every meeting.
Jeff Wasserman, tell me who your legislators are in Coconut Creek, your senator and your state rep.
Tina Polsky and Christine Hunchofsky.
Right. Okay. Very good.
I've been fortunate to speak to Christine. I've not been able to get in touch with Ms. Polsky. A lot of, they're in session. It's been difficult to communicate with some of these people sometimes. But as a candidate going up against an incumbent, it is difficult, right? I have 23 years of catching up to do. So, but we're making inroads, and yeah, that's that.
A quick point, Becky Tooley, help me on this. I heard from talking to folks when I was there that day at the Winmore Democratic Club. The turnpike is currently 4 lanes divided, right?
Yes.
Or is it 6? I'm sorry.
No, it's 6.
It's 6. I'm sorry. It's 6 lanes divided. Logic suggests you would add lanes on each side, but they're not going to do that, are they? They're going to add all the lanes on one side, which is the side, explained to me, closer to the residential areas. Do I have that right? And why is it that way?
Yes, you do. And the reason is the gas lines on the other side.
Gas line.
And we said, move it. Use the money and move it.
I don't drive the turnpike in Coconut Creek that often. Is the turnpike in Coconut Creek that overcrowded that it needs to be widened?
I use it a lot to go to meetings downtown and all over the county. I don't feel that it's very, very busy. And there was an article in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago saying you keep on adding lanes, but you're going to still add to the traffic and the greenhouse gas effect.
It's a well-established fact that anybody who drives the roads of the state should know. Look at 95 in Dade County. You cannot add lanes and build your way out of traffic congestion. Can't be done. Becky, I want to completely change the subject matter to a different area and get into politics about something. This touches on the other commission race in Coconut Creek. And again, if I don't get some of these details exactly right, please clarify for me. Josh Rydell, who is your mayor, resigned to run for state attorney and was unsuccessful. But under the law, he was required to resign his seat. After losing the state attorney's race, the city commission reappointed him. Am I right?
Yes.
Did you vote in favor of that decision?
I voted for Josh. He's a very valuable commissioner. I think everybody felt that way. And I believe that's why we did it.
Okay. And am I right? What I've heard from people in the community, there was no help wanted sign put on City Hall. You didn't solicit applications from other possible candidates, right?
Are you talking about the Lou Sarbone thing, or are you talking about?
Well, I want to talk about Rydell first.
Okay.
Yeah, I realize you've had 2 vacancies. But why not, as capable as Rydell might be, why not give other people in the community at least a chance to apply?
I'm not sure why that was done. It could have been the charter. I'm not sure, because we changed the charter.
Changed it how?
That a person had to, that we couldn't appoint, that they now have to run for a race. And I'd like to see it that they have to at least live in the city for 2 years and go attend the Citizens Academy.
Jeff Wasserman, very briefly, you know this situation. You may not have lived in the city at the time, but was that handled properly by the city?
I think no matter how good somebody is or how valuable somebody is, you want to be transparent with your community. It's very important. And the same thing goes with the Lou Sarbone. People knew Lou Sarbone was not a resident of this city, and people still backed him. People still supported him. And when all of a sudden it came out, there were people who were he duped our citizens, that man. And there was somebody who supported him all the way through and was even crying at the meeting when he had to leave. It's very important that we are transparent. We have to be, or else people lose faith in what we're doing. And we've seen it happen in federal elections, in state elections. People need to be confident in us. They need to be we need to be approachable. We need to be personable.
Right. But I want to ask you, tell me, close the loop on this.
Sure.
What role did Becky Tooley have in the Lou Sarbone situation and replacing Sarbone?
The only thing I know about that is I think people have told me, and she knew that Lou Sarbone was not living in the city at the time. She knew that he was violating the ethics law. She knew that he was not living in Coconut Creek when he was the commissioner for seat D. That's all I could say to that. I don't know anything more, But listen, if you know something, you have to say something, and that goes across the board. Even if you're friends, even if you're tight with somebody, you have to do what's right because you're representing people.
Okay, I'll just, Becky, I'm going to give you the floor in a second here. I just want to say,
Okay.
I want to say parenthetically, Lou Sarbone was a city commissioner and a longtime resident who it came out, and Lisa Hurry-Ash of the Sun Sentinel did great reporting on it. He was living in Fort Myers, and he was commuting across Alligator Alley to come to city commission. This is an astounding, frankly, set of circumstances. So, Becky, number one, did you know Sarbone had moved out of town?
I had heard, because I didn't talk to Lou except for when we were on, on Thursdays when we had commission meetings. Somebody had told me he moved. He had never told me that. But the reason this was done, it was in the charter. We had no choice. And the charter was done a couple of years ago. We just made an amendment to the charter that we have to have a special election. And we all voted for that.
You lost me. You lost me when you said it was in the charter. I don't know what you mean.
The reason that in our charter before, when somebody died or somebody stepped down, you could have an appointment if it was in so many days. And I went to the lawyer, and the lawyer said to me, this is right, because I wanted to do the right thing. Since then, and we didn't like it. We were put along in a lot of pressure. So we went and talked to our attorney and talked to our city manager and said, we want to change it, that it has to be a vote, not picked.
Why did you support the replacement for Lou Sarbone is a man named John Brody, who's running for this election in the other seat. Why did you support Brody, Becky?
Why did I support? John has been in the city for a long time. He's pretty well known. He ran the girls' softball. He has always been involved. He actually spends a lot of time.
Been reported. Proceed to an interior corridor and.
Sorry. He goes and helps with the handicapped people. He helps with the horses for handicap, and he truly loves this city. He had been on a board, and I think his experience and his feel of the city is why. I can tell you that some of the people that were sitting up there had never been to a meeting, which I think is wrong, and never been on the website or never listened to it. And for a long time, you could listen to our meetings. We may not have had a camera, and we're all hitting, the city to do that.
For further instructions.
Excuse me, Dan.
Do not exit the building.
I'm in the state capitol. There's a live tornado warning in this building. That's what this warning is. It will not stop. So I can't ask questions and I can't hear the candidates for the moment. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You go ahead and go.
You want me to start over? Or what do you want
No, we got you. Okay.
Okay.
Duck and cover, Steve.
My quick follow-up question is whether or not it's true that there was significant support on the city commission for another candidate, Mr. Delgado, to be the interim appointment that went to John Brody. Why Brody and not Delgado is my question.
Well, actually, when I had asked a question, Delgado it took him a long time, and he really never answered any of my questions straight up. And that's why I didn't go for him, because actually he would have been my choice.
What sort of questions? What sort of questions did he not answer directly?
Well, like I asked if there was something going on in the city, how would you notify? I'm looking to notify our people with more ways of doing it. And he just never answered it. He just went, well, you just got to stand on the street corner or whatever. And I'd have to go back and listen to the tape again. And that's my reason why I didn't pick him.
Okay. Mr. Wasserman, had you been on the commission instead of Becky Tooley, would you have supported Brody to fill in that open seat?
I think it's important to notice people's experiences in life and their leadership experience. From what I understand, I think it's great. I love getting involved in recreation and things like that. I would have probably vetted the situation a little more. That's my opinion. I have met him. He has been nice, but I've also spoken with many people, many actually commissioners in and around the city, this city and other cities. that even serving on boards, right? There is a learning curve to be on a commission. And sometimes a board doesn't prepare you for being on a commission because now you're all of a sudden the one seated at the table. I would have guided Alfred a little bit better, Mr. Delgado, and getting more information, how to notify people about a thing. I don't understand that question. But I would very much like to have been a part of that. But at the same time, why is the charter getting changed not even a year ago to now have a special election for somebody who seats now all of a sudden the commission responsibility? It should have never happened to begin with.
Well,
The people should have had a choice. The people should have had a choice on who it should have been, and it shouldn't just been appointed by the commission. The people should have had a say, and that's what's most important in this.
and I agree with you, Jeffrey, but there is a charter and we have to go by the city charter. We didn't like it, but we had to.
But why all of a sudden in 2022 is now democracy being encouraged on special circumstances? That's one thing I wasn't understanding with the charter. Is the charter was set in place to now all of a sudden appoint somebody, when in 2022 we are very down the road in terms of our principles and what we do as a country and our democratic values. Why was that never in place to begin with? I don't know. I don't know if it was made before you got there. But that's just something to me, is the people need a say. And when all of a sudden you put a hoodwink and this person's going to be in the spot, people are going to question. And people did question. And that's why this election for D it's grabbing a lot of attention, maybe more than ours. I don't know, but it's grabbing a lot of attention.
It definitely is. But like I say, it was the charter that did it, charter review. So you have to find them and ask them why they did it. We have to abide by it.
Right. I understand. I respect that too. I just don't understand why it was all of a sudden changed after a controversial issue was arised. That's all I'm saying.
Well, because we wanted it different. We thought we all felt that the people should have a right to choose. And we all said that before, but we had to apply, to the charter.
But why should it take a circumstance of somebody living in the city falsely to then resign their position for then all of a sudden to realize, oh, maybe we should, have the people choose? That's what I'm not understanding. Why it took that instance to say maybe the people should vote on this now.
Well, I can't read the charter reviews names, black and white. I didn't see you at the meeting. So I think you need to attend some more meetings and learn some more things, Jeff.
All right. Thank you for that advice, Ms. Tooley. I watch them. I'm very active. And that's all I'll say. Thank God for technology.
I want to move on there from the charter and replacing open seats. The one issue we talked about the Turnpike and we talked about Monarch Hill, but we haven't addressed what exactly development wise is going in north of the Promenade and Sample Road. Becky, can you take us through what stage of the process that development is in right now?
Well, it goes from Wiles Road to Sample Road, 441 to Lyons Road. It started 18 years ago. They wanted to build 9-10 high-rise buildings, which, everybody's always told me that the density is better. I'm not so sure it is. And it was going to be a mixed use. It was going to have retail, restaurants, maybe a lake that would go from restaurant to, one part of that area to the other. Fast forward, there's been 3 or 4 developers because it was owned, part of it is owned by the Earl Johns family, and there's 65 people there. So they broke up into 6, so they had something to say. So lately, the newest developer has come to us once. I didn't like all the tall buildings, and I wanted them to cut some of the buildings. I wanted restaurants. They may put in a grocery store. So now they're redoing it, and our next meeting, I'm hoping the next meeting will be in the next couple months. So this is pretty much the history. We've cut the heights. We made sure that it's going to be all green building. Our police and public safety building will be there. There will be some recreation things to do there. We've even talked about putting maybe a little museum about the history of Coconut Creek, because there's very few people that know it.
Jeff Wasserman, I wanted to ask you about something that we've heard Becky say several times in this interview, which is you weren't at the meeting, you weren't there, your voice wasn't being heard. you told us you moved to Coconut Creek at the end of 2020, but you're a lifelong resident of Northwest Broward. Born in Coral Springs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've taught, or you were an administrator at MSD, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas too?
I was an academic specialist after the tragedy at Stoneman Douglas. I was hired with a federal grant to come into the school and work with the teachers and staff to basically assist in any way I could. It was my first out of the classroom experience. I had been a teacher for 7 years. I taught middle school and high school history and civics. And when I got hired at Stoneman, I was a part of a brand new administration that got put there a year after the tragedy. And I worked hand in hand with these people, trying to make people happy and do what I could. And I would cover for CLAP teachers who needed to leave at certain times.
Okay.
I was, yeah.
All right. Well, that's a roundabout way of me getting to the question of, it's a normal path of activism for anybody who wants to get involved in local government. Maybe you raise your hand and apply for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, the Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning. Have you made an attempt to serve on any city advisory boards?
No, I've not. As an AP at the largest high school since moving into the city, we moved in. I started as an assistant principal. I sit on multiple boards at my school and within the county. So using my effective communication skills, problem solving skills, finding, my strong interpersonal skills, I think that no matter what board you're on, no matter what council you try to go for, nothing ever prepares you fully for when you are on that committee on that commission making decisions. Very similar to when now I'm being an assistant principal. I was never an assistant principal, but all of a sudden you're in the room where the stuff happens and the decisions happen. And you have to work together. And I think those experiences have prepared me to become the commissioner for District A. And I think it's always going to be a learning curve. And you have to look to your peers for help. You have to look to your peers to learn from. And that is my insight on that.
Okay. Just sorry about getting more noise interference here, Dan. Sorry.
No worries. So going forward, you mentioned that you've all mentioned these kind of three big issues. I want you to kind of tell me, what do you feel in the next couple of years prior to the next election? What is the biggest thing that the city commission will be tackling, and what will you be doing on it? Becky, Tooley, to start with you.
Well, I believe in the next 4 years is going to be the development and building of the Main Street area. Also, we have to, the state kind of runs us. Home rules have gotten lost, so it's tough. We increased the public safety building. We've increased. We hired the first bullet dog, air dog in the United States to help protect in our schools, and I'm proud of that. And now we have a basset hound to find lost children and adults. But I believe it's the Main Street project is the thing.
You mentioned state preemption over home rule in that answer. Can you give me specific examples where your city commission has butted heads against the state's preemption laws?
Well, actually, we do a legislative thing and every year, and we get what the legislation, the Broward delegation wants to do, and most of us support that. And like for a long time, we tried to get that cigarette butts smoking wasn't permitted in parks and beaches and stuff like that. We don't have beaches, but I think it's a good thing for our parks because those little kids' lungs shouldn't be around that. Doing some construction on Lyons Road down the median strip to make it look better. But I think the Main Street problem is the most important. The other thing that's important to me is hopefully to get a mental health facility into our system where people can go for help. COVID did people in, and the kids, I remember after Stoneman Douglas, they had a heck of a time going back to school. So the mental health attitude in the United States is horrible, and I hope to get a clinic in Coconut Creek. not for people to stay, but for the doctors so they can make appointments and go and talk to them.
Understood. Mr. Wasserman, the same initial question I had for her. Before the next election, what's the biggest issue you think the city commission will be dealing with, and what would you do about it?
So I agree. I agree with one of the things, it being John's farm. You know, I think it's been taking a long time, but we can't settle. I think that's what's most important, is settling on something. If it's taken this long, let it take a little longer so we can have it foolproof and be the way we wanted it to be. You know, retail might be down now, but retail will come back. We know that. So I think it's important that we look at that. And it's going to be $272 million to complete the project. We're talking the CATS developers are working on it. I've seen a lot of write-up drops on it. It looks nice, but I work at Cyberspace. We had a brand new building built. I'll give you some insight. We had a brand new building built, and listen, haste makes waste. That's all I'll say. We can't rush into things. We have to be thoughtful, because once it's there, it's permanent. And I have to piggyback. I give her a lot of credit on the mental health. You know, I work at school after COVID. Mental health is the most important thing for people. A lot of the time it was a stigma. Mental health wasn't talked about. People wouldn't talk about therapy. People wouldn't talk about, going to get help. Now is the time that we as a city need to help people. We need to provide services. We need to build stuff out that we can assist. And the schools are doing a great job. We have school social workers. My wife is a school counselor at a high school. The things she hears, the things she has to keep with her, I can't believe some of the things that these people go through, kids go through, teachers go through. If they're going through it, people in our city are going through it, and we need to support. When people are happy, when people do good, it contributes to everybody. And I'm very big on mental health. It's imperative.
Jeffrey, can you cite for us a vote, or more than one vote, but one would be a good start, a specific vote or decision Becky Tooley has made on the city commission that you would have made differently?
Her personally, yeah, I probably wouldn't have voted for Commissioner Brody at that time. And I think she had something to do with it behind the scenes.
And what would that have been?
I don't know. When I talk to voters, when I speak to people, they weren't happy how that happened. And actually, one guy, I'll never forget, we were knocking, and didn't mention anybody but Mr. Sarbone. And he said that was the most crookedest thing this city has done in the past 20 to 25 years since he's been here. And he was very hurt. And because he, as a citizen, didn't have a voice in it. And that's the decision, I would say, because it doesn't contribute to the transparency of being a city commissioner.
Is there somebody else that they should have appointed besides Mr. Brody?
No, I think they should have waited it out. I think they should. I think they should have adjusted. I think they should have held on and done it the right way, and maybe amend the charter to then have a special election to give the power back to the citizens. Okay. And the election was only coming up under a year later. So, I mean, sometimes when you vote on things, if you have four, there's a stalemate. Sometimes that happens. But I think you also got to do right with the people. And that's what I would say to that.
Becky, I want to let you respond, but also ask, in the case of the Brody interim appointment, that too was a case where the city didn't solicit applications from citizens, correct?
No, the city clerk's office put stuff on the website. So if you don't get on the website and on the Cocogram, they advertise on the Cocogram. So that's not true.
Okay. Do you know how many people applied for it? Any idea?
There were 7, but one was outside the district.
Okay.
And then another one was going to apply. And actually, I like this person, but because of her job, there was a conflict.
Okay, so Mr. Wasserman is suggesting that he used the word crooked to describe the way this appointment went down. What do you say to that?
I don't think it was crooked. We had to do what we did. We followed the charter. And as far as me having something to do behind the scenes in Brody, no. Everybody was one until we voted that night.
We know that city elections, municipal elections, are officially nonpartisan. We also know that that's a farce in a lot of communities. They're not nonpartisan. John Brody is not a registered Democrat. Am I right, Becky Tooley?
I believe he's a no party
Right.
person.
At the Winmore Democratic Club, he wanted to stand up, say hello, and introduce himself to a bunch of Democrats. And the club said he couldn't do that. Am I right? You were both there.
Yes, and actually, if he was doing it at a city commissioner, he should have been allowed, but as a candidate, I understand.
Okay. And what has Mr. Brody added? What's the added value he's brought to the commission since he got appointed, Becky?
Actually, to honor people, we all got coins that there are people that have done stuff in the city that we feel need credit. And if we see somebody doing it, we want to honor them. I believe he's a veteran on our board and the only veteran that's been on for quite a while. And I think that helps. And because we want to do something with Veterans Park, he knows so many people around because of what he's done in the city with women's sports and girls sports and other things. And now he's reached out to some of the nonprofits and helped when they needed it.
Okay. We're coming up to the top of the hour, and we've covered a lot of ground, but we've left a lot of ground uncovered too. So what I want to do is this. I want to give each of you a chance to make a sort of what Rosemary O'Hara, my predecessor, called an elevator pitch. Sort of a 1 minute summation, 1 minute. You've got, you're trapped with somebody on Lyons Road at a stoplight, and you got 1 minute to make your case for why you'd be a good person for this election on March 14th. And Becky Tooley, we're going to begin with you. Go ahead.
Okay, I believe that it's my experience. I won an award through the Florida League of Cities for the work I've done for 20 years. I also think it's important to talk to young people, not just seniors. So this city is for all of them, and that's important to me. And I go to everything that there is, and I spend the time with the residents, but also with the children. And I spend some time in schools, and I enjoy it very much. And I think this is the greatest city ever, and I want to continue one more term.
All right. Thank you very much. Wasserman, you have the floor, sir.
Me and my wife chose Coconut Creek to raise our family. We're invested here. I respect the history of Coconut Creek. I respect the past 25 years and the parties that have contributed to the responsible government. But I think it's time. I think it's time to help shape the next 25 years of our city. I was told that Miss Tooley was retiring. So we looked into this issue. We looked into running. She was very vocal about that in October. So we wanted to push forward and see what our generation could do. I want to lead our generation. I want to do the best I can for our city. And I know if given the chance to talk to people, which I've been doing, they're feeling the energy. They're ready for a turn of the page, and they're ready to honor the past and look forward to the future. And that's why I think people should vote for me in this election. And I thank you for your time. This was very cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is the first interview we've done. We're doing interviews in about 9 different races and 9 cities, I should say. But this is the first one. You both batted leadoff, and we both very much appreciate your participation. Like I said, it's the start of a conversation. Feel free to email or call Dan or me with any questions or concerns. This is going to be a dynamic race. We want to get our endorsements out to readers when people are getting their mail ballots, which is going to be the early part of February, right? So thanks again for that. So Becky and Jeff, thank you both for being here this morning. Appreciate it very much.
Thank both of you.
Thank you.